Right now, the egg sitting in your refrigerator might be from a brand that has been caught fixing prices, recalled hundreds of millions of eggs over salmonella contamination, or lied to you about what free range actually means. In the next few minutes, I'm exposing the 8 egg brands you need to stop buying immediately, backed by FDA recalls, federal lawsuits, and undercover investigations. And stick around until the end, because I'll reveal the 4 brands that actually deliver what their cartons promise. Let's crack open the truth. 8. Happy Egg Company. Happy Egg Company puts pictures of cheerful hens roaming green pastures on every carton. The packaging screams wholesome. The reality? The Organic Consumers Association sued Happy Egg in 2020, alleging their pasture-raised claims were flat-out deceptive. And the lawsuit had teeth. Happy Eggs farms actually meet the American Humane Association's free-range standard, which only requires about 21 square feet per bird. Real pasture-raised certification from Certified Humane requires 108 square feet per hen. That is 5 times more space than Happy Egg provides. PETA filed a separate complaint with the FTC in 2024 over the brand's marketing, pointing out that flocks can reach 20,000 birds in a single operation, and that research shows as few as 3% of hens at some free-range facilities ever actually go outside. Think about that. You are paying a premium for pasture-raised eggs, and statistically, some of those hens have never touched grass. Another class action lawsuit alleges that 4 of Happy Egg's product lines systematically misuse pasture-raised language on their cartons. This is a UK-owned company, by the way, Noble Foods out of England. They are charging you American premium prices for eggs that don't meet American premium standards. 7. Nellie's Free Range. Nellie's has built an entire brand around the idea of small family farms and happy hens running through fields. Their cartons literally show pastoral scenes of chickens frolicking outdoors. But in a federal lawsuit filed in 2019, Judge Vincent Brichetti ruled that these marketing images went beyond puffery, meaning a court found the imagery plausibly misleading. That's not a good sign for any brand. PETA conducted an undercover investigation at one of Nellie's suppliers and documented roughly 20,000 hens crammed into a single shed with about 1.2 square feet per bird. That is barely enough room for the bird to turn around. A second federal lawsuit includes photos of overcrowded barns and tiny pop-hole doors as evidence that the Certified Humane Free Range label is deceptive. Here is what makes Nellie's particularly frustrating. They market themselves as a small family farm brand, but they are actually owned by Pete and Jerry's Organics, which was acquired by Butterfly Equity, a private equity firm, back in 2021. And Pete and Jerry's has been on a buying spree, picking up Farmer's Hen House in February 2025 and now coordinating roughly 300 contract farms. This is industrial egg production wearing a farmhouse costume. 6. Eggland's Best. Eggland's Best is one of the most recognized egg brands in America, and it is also one of the most sued. Let's start with the cage-free claims. In 2024, a consumer filed a class action in Illinois federal court alleging that Eggland's Best cartons promise hens that are free to roam in a pleasant, natural environment. In February 2026, Judge Franklin Valderrama denied the company's motion to dismiss, ruling that this claim is not just marketing puffery when the birds are actually kept indoors around the clock with about 1 square foot of space per hen. That case is still active. But it gets worse. In a separate lawsuit, independent lab testing by Anresco Laboratories found that Eggland's Best eggs contain roughly 2.84 grams of saturated fat per serving. The label says 1 gram. That is nearly triple what they are advertising. Their entire 25% less saturated fat than ordinary eggs marketing campaign potentially falls apart if those lab numbers hold up in court. And then there is the supply chain. Mercy for Animals conducted an undercover investigation at Briarwood Farms, an Eggland's best supplier in Oregon, and the footage was disturbing. Workers violently ripping hens from battery cages, live birds trapped among decomposing carcasses, and hens falling into manure pits. Eggland's Best also settled a false advertising case with the FTC back in 1994 over misleading cholesterol claims. The primary licensee producing most Eggland's Best eggs? Cal-Maine Foods, the company at the top of this list for reasons you will hear shortly. 5. Great Value Eggs, Walmart. Great Value is Walmart's store brand, and millions of Americans buy these eggs every week, assuming that the low price is the only trade-off. But these eggs come with baggage that goes far beyond budget production. Much of Walmart's egg supply has been sourced through Rose Acre Farms and Cal-Maine Foods, both of which appear elsewhere on this list for very serious reasons. In 2018, Walmart's Great Value brand was one of the labels affected when Rose Acre Farms recalled over 206 million eggs after a salmonella outbreak. FDA inspectors found more than 24 live rodents running across the production floor, insects swarming the processing area, and workers handling eggs without basic sanitation practices. That recall sickened 45 people across 10 states. Walmart's market-side organic eggs, also produced by Cal-Maine at a facility in Chase, Kansas, were the subject of a 2018 lawsuit alleging that outdoor access for the hens was actually just enclosed concrete porches with small portholes. No grass, no dirt, no actual outdoors. Just a concrete slab behind a wall with a tiny opening. Consumers paying organic premiums at Walmart were essentially buying conventional eggs with better marketing. And in 2025, Walmart's market-side label was caught up yet again in the August Egg Company recall that pulled 1.7 million dozen eggs across 9 states after an outbreak that killed 1 person and hospitalized 38 others. At some point, the cheapest eggs on the shelf become the most expensive mistake you can make. 4. Handsome Brook Farms. Handsome Brook Farms positioned itself as the premium pasture-raised option at Costco, and for a while, a lot of health-conscious shoppers believed them. Then came November 2024. The FDA issued a Class 1 recall, their most severe classification reserved for situations where there is a reasonable probability that consuming the product will cause serious health consequences or death. What happened? Eggs from a salmonella-positive environment that were supposed to go to a pasteurization facility for breaking were accidentally packaged as retail shell eggs and shipped to 25 Costco stores under the Kirkland Signature Organic Pasture-Raised label. These contaminated eggs ended up in shopping carts across Alabama, Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Tennessee before anyone caught the mistake. But this was not Handsome Brook's first credibility problem. Back in 2016, both the Animal Legal Defense Fund and the Organic Consumers Association sued the company after it was revealed that Handsome Brook was sourcing eggs labeled pasture-raised from suppliers that did not actually use pasture systems. The company settled in 2018 and agreed to 18 months of quarterly third-party audits. After the 2024 Costco recall, Organic Eye filed a new USDA complaint noting that the company uses fixed housing rather than the rotational pasture systems that consumers associate with the pasture-raised label. For a brand built entirely on trust and transparency, getting hit with an FDA Class 1 recall for shipping contaminated eggs to Costco is about as bad as it gets. 3. Hillendale Farms. Hillendale Farms is one of the largest egg producers in America with roughly 18.75 million laying hens and their track record reads like a case study in everything that can go wrong in the egg industry. During the COVID pandemic, when families were struggling to afford groceries, New York Attorney General Letitia James sued Hillandale on August 11, 2020, for price gouging. The details were staggering. Hillandale had been charging Western beef supermarkets $2.93 per dozen after previously selling at 59 cents to $1.10. They billed West Point military commissaries $3.15 per dozen after previously charging 84 cents. The AG alleged more than $4 million in illegal profits from overcharging on over 4 million cartons. The 2021 settlement forced Hillandale to donate 1.2 million eggs. But that is the recent history. Hillandale's predecessor operation, run by Jack DeCoster, was responsible for one of the largest egg recalls in American history. In 2010, roughly 550 million eggs were recalled, and 1,939 people got sick from salmonella. The FDA investigation uncovered conditions so egregious that DeCoster and his son were criminally charged, pleaded guilty to bribing a USDA inspector, and served 3 months in federal prison. In May 2025, Hillandale was acquired by Global Eggs, a Luxembourg-based company, for $1.1 billion. New ownership, same legacy of problems that consumers should know about before buying. 2. Roseacre Farms. Roseacre Farms is the second largest egg producer in America with 25.5 million laying hens, and their 2018 recall remains one of the most disturbing food safety failures in recent memory. In April 2018, Roseacre recalled 206,749,248 eggs from their Hyde County, North Carolina facility. These eggs were sold under numerous store brands, including Great Value at Walmart, Crystal Farms, Coburn Farms, Country Daybreak, Food Lion, and Sunshine Farms. What FDA inspectors found at that facility was genuinely alarming. The inspection report documented more than 24 live rodents running across production floors and burrowing into manure piles. 25 flying insects were found in the processing area. Condensation was dripping onto equipment that contacted the eggs, and workers were observed touching their faces, trash containers, and other unsanitary surfaces before handling eggs without changing gloves. The FDA's conclusion was blunt. They described an environment that allows for the harborage, proliferation, and spread of filth and pathogens. The outbreak sickened 45 people across 10 states, and 11 were hospitalized. But Roseacre's problems extend beyond food safety. The company is a co-defendant in the 2023 federal price-fixing verdict, where a jury unanimously found that Roseacre, Cal-Maine, and others conspired to restrict egg supply between 2004 and 2008 to drive up prices. Damages of $17.8 million were trebled to roughly $53 million. When the second largest egg company in America is found guilty of both fixing prices and shipping eggs from a rodent-infested facility, there is no version of that story where consumers should feel comfortable buying their products. 1. Cal-Maine Foods. Taking the #1 spot as the single worst egg brand in America, Cal-Maine Foods is the defendant in virtually every major egg industry scandal of the past 2 decades. This is the largest egg producer in the country, with roughly 44.5 million laying hens and around 20% market share. They produce or license Eggland's Best, Land O'Lakes Shell Eggs, Farmhouse, Sunups, Sunny Meadow, and 4-grain branded eggs. Chances are you have bought their eggs without even knowing it. In November 2023, a federal jury unanimously found Cal-Maine guilty of conspiring with other producers to fix egg prices between 2004 and 2008, violating the Sherman Antitrust Act. The damages were trebled to roughly $53 million, but that was just the warm-up. In March 2025, Cal-Maine disclosed in SEC filings that the U.S. Department of Justice Antitrust Division had issued a civil investigative demand over nationwide egg price increases. Reports indicate that DOJ is preparing to file a civil suit targeting coordination through the Expani price benchmarking service. Texas AG Ken Paxton's separate case settled in January 2026, with Cal-Maine donating 2.16 million eggs to food banks. And a new class action filed in November 2025 alleges coordinated price-fixing dating back to January 2022. Here is what makes all of this infuriating. While American families were paying record prices for eggs, with retail hitting $6.23 per dozen in March 2025, Cal-Maine posted net income of $1.2 billion in fiscal 2025. That is a 339% increase. Their stock hit an all-time high of $126.40 in July 2025. And during the bird flu outbreak that devastated smaller producers, Cal-Maine collected $17 million in federal indemnity payments after losing hens at their Texas facility. A company that made $1.2 billion in a single year received taxpayer-funded compensation for their losses. And after DOJ's civil investigative demands became public, wholesale egg prices that had peaked at $8.41 per dozen on February 28, 2025 began falling within days. Cal-Maine represents everything broken about the American egg industry: price manipulation, market dominance, misleading brand labels, and record profits extracted from consumers who had no idea one company controlled so much of their grocery aisle. Before we get to the safe brands, you need to understand something about the labels on your egg carton, because these labels are the single biggest reason consumers keep getting fooled. Cage-free sounds great until you learn the USDA definition. It means hens can roam inside a building, indoors only. No outdoor access required, no minimum space per bird specified. They are out of the cage and onto the floor of a crowded warehouse. Free range is barely better. The USDA requires continuous access to the outdoors, but that outdoor space can be fenced, covered in netting, and as small as a concrete porch with a tiny pop-hole door. There is no minimum outdoor area per bird. Natural is completely meaningless. The USDA defines it as minimally processed with no artificial ingredients. Every egg on the planet meets that definition by default. Hormone-free is pure marketing fluff. Federal law has banned hormones in poultry since the 1950s. Every single egg in America is hormone-free. Putting it on the carton is like putting "contains no sand" on a bottle of water. And here is the big one. Pasture-raised has no USDA or FDA definition whatsoever. Any company can slap it on a carton without meeting a single standard. It is enforced only by voluntary third-party certifiers, and as you just saw, even some of those certified brands are getting sued for not meeting the standards they claim. The only labels that actually mean something are 3 third-party certification seals: Animal Welfare Approved, Certified Humane Pasture-Raised, and Regenerative Organic Certified. If you don't see one of those 3 seals, you are trusting the company's marketing department, and that has not worked out well for consumers so far. After exposing the worst offenders and the labeling tricks they use, here is the good news. These 4 brands actually earn their premium prices with verified certifications, genuine farming practices, and 0 recalls or lawsuits to their name. 4. Utopia Hen Farms. Starting our safe list, Utopia Hen Farms out of Lancaster County, Pennsylvania is the best option you can find at an actual grocery store. They coordinate roughly 30 independently owned Pennsylvania family farms, each holding certified humane pasture-raised status with 110 square feet per hen, slightly above the 108 square foot minimum required for certification. They offer soy-free and corn-free lines for consumers with dietary concerns. Pricing runs $7 to $9 per dozen, which is reasonable for what you are actually getting. And critically, Utopia Hen is not backed by private equity. No corporate roll-up games, no misleading imagery, just real family farms producing genuine pasture-raised eggs with third-party verification. 3. Happy Hens, Truly Outdoors. At number 3, Happy Hens. Truly Outdoors is the highest-rated West Coast egg brand on the Cornucopia Institute's Organic Egg Scorecard, earning 1,670 out of 1,800 points. Owner Chloe Nevarez operates out of Ramona, California, using mobile coops that rotate every few days across living pasture, guarded by a donkey and livestock dogs. The hens are not beak-trimmed, which is a practice that even many certified humane operations still allow. Feed is soy-free, corn-free, and non-GMO. Happy Hens holds 3 certifications simultaneously: Certified Humane, USDA Organic, and Real Organic Project. You can find them at Whole Foods locations across Southern California, plus Jimbo's Naturally in Erewhon, at roughly $8 to $12 per dozen. This is what real pasture-raised eggs look like. 2. Kingbird Farm. Claiming the number 2 spot, Kingbird Farm in Berkshire, New York scores 1,670 Cornucopia points and holds all 3 gold standard certifications: Animal Welfare, approved by A Greener World, USDA, Organic through NOFA NY, and Real Organic Project. Michael, Karma, and Rosemary Gloss have operated this farm for more than 25 years with approximately 300 hens and horse-powered farming practices. That small flock size is actually a quality indicator. Genuine pasture operations with Animal Welfare. Approved certification typically cap flocks under 500 birds because the standards simply cannot be maintained at industrial scale. Distribution is local to the Ithaca, New York area, which is itself proof of authenticity. If you are in upstate New York, this is as good as eggs get. 1. 8 Mile Creek Farm. Taking the top spot as the best egg brand in America, 8 Mile Creek Farm in Westerlo, New York holds the highest national score on the Cornucopia Institute's Organic Egg Scorecard at 1,705 out of 1,800 points. The 430-acre operation was founded by Pam Schreiber in 2005 and is USDA Organic certified through NOFA NY, Real Organic Project verified, and Humane certified. Small flocks live on genuine pasture, not concrete porches with portholes, not industrial sheds with pop-hole doors, but actual rotating pasture with room to forage naturally. The farm is independently owned with 0 private equity involvement and 0 documented controversies. No recalls, no lawsuits, no misleading labels. 8 Mile Creek Farm ships nationwide through their online store, making them accessible to consumers anywhere in the country. This is what every egg brand claims to be, but almost none of them actually are. Simple ingredients, honest practices, and verifiable quality. That is what eggs are supposed to be. There you have it. 8 brands to leave on the shelf and 4 that actually deserve a spot in your refrigerator. Before your next grocery run, remember this. Ignore the carton imagery entirely and look for third-party certification seals instead. The 3 that actually mean something are Animal Welfare, approved, certified, humane pasture-raised, and regenerative, organic certified. Everything else, including cage-free, free-range, and natural, is marketing language with almost no legal teeth behind it. If this changed how you think about the eggs you buy, hit that like button, drop a comment telling me which brand shocked you the most, and share this with your family. They deserve to know what they are actually eating. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss content exposing the truth about everyday groceries. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.